Okay, hey, we're doing our St. Patrick's Day special, even though it's the night before. St. Patrick's Day Eve with Mick Fealty, Irish blogger with SluggerO'Toole.com. Yes, you've been blogging since 2002. You're visiting DC for... actually, why don't you tell folks a little bit about why you guys are here, and then we'll talk a little bit about your blog.
Yeah, I'm over with a group of Irish journalists, broadcast, radio. There's about 14 of us, 7 from the north, 7 from the south, and I'm the only blogger. But basically we spent last week in Boston talking to different people in politics, American politics, American journalism, hearing about how the bottom has fallen out of the news market, and you know, looking at some of the complications arising from that. And now we're here in DC the night before St. Patrick's Day, and again just talking to a lot of really interesting people and getting an insider view of American politics, which we're not usually privileged.
I mean, what impression have you had already, if any? You said this is the second time you've been here. You've only been to LA before?
Yeah, I went to LA for 3 days.
Okay. From
Belfast, which was a killer.
Yeah.
5 days later, I actually left Heathrow Airport in London.
Right.
8
hours.
Later,
8 hours
back
jet lag?
there again, and,
yeah.
and I didn't know which way was up for 3 weeks.
But what's been your impression just of the last week that you've been here, of the politics? I mean, in general.
Oh, fascinating. I mean, you know, healthcare is obviously the thing that everybody's talking about, but when we were in Boston, everybody's talking about Scott Brown.
Oh, that's funny. Scott Brown.
What is it? What is it? Like,
yeah.
What,
well, I mean, he won in January, and supposedly it changed everything, even though it was only 1 seat.
Yeah.
And even with 60 votes in the Senate, they still didn't get much done. But yeah.
Sure.
The Democrats like to think it changed everything.
But you know,
yeah.
Massachusetts returning a Republican.
Right.
It's an indication that things are not as they would normally be, and a sense that you know, the common ticket for everybody at the moment is kick the bums out. You know, that's kind of...
Right.
There seems to be a kind of a large-scale disaffection with politics.
Right. Which is funny because we kicked the bums out a year ago, which is the irony.
Indeed,
but yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, but that seems to be the ticket. That seems to be the winning ticket for everybody, no matter who.
Right.
So, yeah, and we were up in Capitol Hill yesterday, kind of being shown around, and you know. Yeah.
So let me go back to the blogging then. As far as you've been blogging since 2002.
Yeah.
What do you blog about? Is it just Irish politics?
Mostly Northern Irish politics. That's the major focus at the moment.
And you're from Northern Ireland?
I'm from Northern Ireland, but
what town or whatever?
Hollywood, just outside Belfast.
You're from Hollywood?
Yeah. With 1 L.
Okay, so we'd say Holywood, I guess.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah.
But now you said
Hollywood
you live in Southern England, or?
I've lived in Southern England for about 25 years.
Okay. And clearly lost the accent.
Oh yeah. Working on it. Working on it.
Yeah.
So I started Slugger really as a kind of a research tool for a paper I was writing on the future of unionism in Northern Ireland, and I managed to pull together quite a high-powered group of authorial group, and we did a lot of research, and basically I used Slugger as a pinboard for what I thought was substantial intellectual capital. So Slugger was never really about my politics. It's really a mapping exercise in what's actually going on.
But I mean, are you suggesting that your blog is basically objective? Because political blogs in this country tend to definitely skew left or right.
No, it's not objective, not in that sense. In fact, actually, I don't believe in objectivity in traditional terms.
Right.
What I believe in is plurality of voice. So when I was doing the pinboard stuff, I was deliberately looking at things that were being said within unionism and things that were being said within nationalism. So right from the very beginning...
Which, of course, I have no idea what any of that even means.
Okay, well, unionism means the people who want to stay with the UK and Britain.
Okay.
And nationalism basically indicates the people who are disaffected with that state.
And you know what? And now I'm going to stop you and do what I told you I was going to do, which is I think some of our readers probably are experts on the whole Northern Ireland situation. Many are probably like me, where they've grown up hearing a lot about it, but if you're not Irish, it's very confusing, and some of them probably have no idea what we're talking about. Can you give us a Northern Ireland 101 as far as, okay, Northern Ireland is part of Great Britain.
Okay.
It's part of the United Kingdom, so you'd be you are a British citizen, British passport.
By default.
By default.
Yeah. There are means of expressing dissent from that.
Okay, but there you go. But how long has Northern Ireland been considered a part of the United Kingdom?
Well...
I mean, how does the history start here? You're going to have to do this in YouTube history, which means you get 40 seconds to it.
Well, I mean, the argument over sovereignty is about 800 years old.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah.
But when did...
It goes back to, I think... I can't remember. It's one of the Edwards. I think Edward II.
Okay.
And he gets invited in by an Irish king, and he gradually
and never leaves.
And never leaves, basically. But and actually, what happens with the first lot of settlers, the Normans, they send these guys over. and they go native.
This thing goes back to the Normans?
It goes right back to the Normans.
Jesus
but the
Christ.
Normans, Norman aristocracy all end up going native.
Right.
And the English throne tries to regulate that in certain ways. Now this is going to get interesting, but very too long for YouTube.
Yeah.
Cut another 400 years, and you got the Protestant Reformation, which for the first time,
which is what, 1600s, or what are we talking?
So around about that, yeah,
okay.
yeah, and for the first time, actually, they begin to settle ordinary citizens, particularly, and it's very successfully done.
Meaning they're moving sort of ethnic English over into Northern Ireland,
ethnic Scots,
right?
Some of them even Gaelic speakers, so they're speaking roughly the same language.
And of course, we're talking religious diffedifferences as well. These are Protestants.
Is the first time.
Well, these are Protestants now because this is when Elizabeth split, or her father, whichever, split from the church, right?
Your father, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But the point is, in Ireland, that doesn't really kick in for another 100 years or so, when they seriously start to plant,
right,
as they call it, settlers in the northern part, in Ulster.
Okay.
And this, for the first time, leaves a permanent mark between a marked cultural difference between the settlers, because previously they were Catholic and there was no difference,
right,
and the natives who retained their Catholicism.
Okay.
And from so
it almost I mean, not to get into that whole issue, but it's almost like the Israeli settlement policy to some degree. Not to drag in a totally different issue, but
well, it was always like that. They were always sending people over, but it's only for the first time what you've got is this Catholic Protestant thing kicking in, and then zip forward another nearly 300, 400 years, and you have the point at which Ireland earns its independence from United Kingdom of Great Britain, and the Northerners say no. The Northern Protestants say no. We want to stay. We want to stay with the mothership. And from that point onwards, Ireland splits into two. Okay. And we have Northern Ireland.
Okay. I did not realize that. Okay. Now, so let's go back to your blog then. As far as what. God, it's almost hard to ask, sort of, because I don't know how familiar you are with blogging in the States, as far as whether you're seeing any similarities. You've already you met with the Huffington Post folks. You met with Joe Sudbey and me tonight. Have you met with any other bloggers while you're here?
Yeah, Mickey Fealty when I was over in LA.
You did?
And a few others. Yeah.
Who'd you meet with? Did you meet with Marcos, or who'd you? Well, Marcos is in LA,
Mickey,
but I mean
Mickey.
Mickey Coast. I'm sorry, I said Daily Coast. Mickey Coast. Yes. You said you know the folks from Crooked Timber.
I know.
I've heard of, or
Henry,
the folk.
Henry Farrell, who I've known for a long time. They started in 2003. We started in 2002. I mean,
any impression of differences, or it's pretty much the same job?
No, it's vastly different. I mean, for me, 2002, the blogosphere internationally was a village, and now it is a vast metropolis of different kind of. So I would have been much more familiar back in 2002 with what American bloggers were doing, because they were the cutting edge. If you wanted to look for examples about how they actually do
and that was quite early here.
You had a I
mean we had Andrew Sullivan. I think Daily Coast may have started in 2003. Don't quote me on that, but it was 2002 or 3.
They did. Yeah.
2 or 3. Because we started in 4.
I think it was 3 or 4. I can't remember.
They were before. We were 4, and they started before us. Right. So my guess is they were 3 or 2 then. Yeah, 3 maybe then. But anyway, So, but I mean, is it a similar difference from what you do back there to what you're noting here from bloggers?
Sorry?
I mean, it sounds like your blogging there isn't any different than what we blog about. Not blog about. The structure of being a blogger and the blog.
There's massive differences.
Because you still are observing what's going on. The government is reading you. You were saying I assume some journalists read you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean,
which is
all
similar
those structural
to here,
things are very similar.
Right.
It's just the arguments are vastly different. In UK, in Britain, around Westminster politics, you've got a similar kind of cultural split between the left and the right. Right. But that is only getting to the stage now where you were in the States here maybe 5 years ago.
What stage is that?
Well, critical mass.
You mean where it's getting nastier, or what?
Well, there's a bit of that. There's definitely there's a kind of a nasty edge. So even in the States here, 6-7 years ago, there was a certain collegiality. When Trent
in the Senate there was. I'm thinking Washington, but
it was right-wing bloggers as much as left-wing bloggers who went after him. I don't see that anymore. I see basically people withdrawn into their own sectarian camps and lobbing bombs at each other, not real bombs, but virtual bombs at each other. And I think we're starting to see that, but really in Britain, we're only seeing the critical mass that you've had here in the States about for a good 5 years. In Ireland, it's much smaller.
Well, you were